Hi, Kai Yee. Welcome to Malaysians on the Move. I'm really excited that you reached out to me and you wanted to come on to share your story. Let's probably just get started and you can tell me a little bit about yourself, where you grew up in Malaysia, and what you're up to these days.
Hi, I'm Kai Yee. So about my background, I grew up in Selangor. I went to this school called Wawasan, so I don't know if many of you have heard of. So it's a school where they try to put the SK, the SJKT, and the SJKC together. And then you share the same canteen, you share the same hall. You kind of learn and grow in the same school compound.
So you're saying that you have the SK schools and then you have like a Chinese and Tamil school and you guys share the same like infrastructure and facility.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So if you're from USJ, from Subang, you've probably heard of the school called Wawasan. So I'm particularly from the SJKC section, which is SJKC Tun Tan Cheng Lock.
Oh, okay. Got it. Got it. Oh, awesome. How was that experience for you?
I think it stands out from like other friends who from other school, like other SJKC schools, because when you share things together, you have the sports day together, you get the chance to talk to people who are like not from the people that you usually meet. And then you have everything together, but then you're still kind of separated because you stick in your class and your school. So it's a bit like the bigger Malaysia, but in
Yeah,
a smaller compound.
very nice. And you had that for our primary and secondary school?
It's only for primary.
Okay, okay, awesome.
Hmm.
So for primary school, you basically did the Chinese syllabus. And then how was your secondary school? Like, did you continue down that path?
No, my secondary school, I actually went to a Chinese private school in KL. So I went
Okay.
to Kuen Cheng,
Oh, I know that
Kuen
one.
Cheng
It's a
High
very good
School.
school.
Yeah.
Girls' school, right?
Thank
Yeah.
you. They're co-ed now.
Oh, they're co-ed now. Okay.
Yeah. And then after this, I went to do A levels at Sunway. And that's when I decided what I'm going to do right now, which is biomedical science. So right after A levels, I go straight to London at Imperial College to do medical biosciences.
And how did you feel when you got to the UK?
So when I got to the UK, it was the first time that I set foot in Europe. So everything was very new. It was completely different. The weather was different. And UK is nothing like Malaysia. It's
Yeah.
cold. Most of the time, it's not sunny. You do get a lot of rain. And it's quite difficult for me to adjust in the very first winter when everyone is back for Christmas and then you either travel or you're just stuck in the hostel with you and your friends if you're lucky enough. Um, but also, I think that was the time where I started reflecting on myself, on what I want to do, kind of plan out my route, as well as mixing with more people from different backgrounds in the college. Because Imperial in general is a very international school. Um, I think that's when I started meeting people with different cultural backgrounds, and then you have those interesting conversations.
Okay. You mind sharing one that maybe was insightful or that made you have a different perspective?
I think one of the things that I kind of took it for granted was how diverse our culture is and how easy it is for us to talk to people of different cultural backgrounds. You might find some people who are so stuck with their own culture where they think that, oh, my culture is the best. So they just speak their own language among themselves during the class or during like discussions. Whereas there are people who are just like, they're actually trying to engage in conversations. So you see the discrepancies between people from different backgrounds and also like different upbringings. People from Europe, they kind of like get along a lot easier than us because they speak an additional language. They probably speak French together, speak Spanish together, more than just English. They share similar cultural values. And then some of us are like very reserved, whereas other people are very open to different opinions. Um, and then for us Malaysians, I feel like we kind of form our very unique community where we are able to mingle with our Asian friends really well, people from Singapore, from Indonesia, um, and also because we're colonized, you get influence from the Europe. So I don't think it was particularly difficult to meet friends in the beginning.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, I think that's definitely one of our strengths. I think growing up, I heard the word perpaduan a lot, which is
Mhm.
like, so many different communities and races coming together. And I didn't really understand what it was because I thought the rest of the world was like that.
Yeah.
Um, but the truth is, like, that's not the case. And, I've basically found that it's been easy for me to speak to people of all walks of life and kind of just stay curious and be curious about what like the kind of things that they've been through and what they have to offer and what their goals and aspirations are. So yeah, I definitely see that. And I guess for you though, like, with your secondary education going to a Chinese private school, did you feel like you had that exposure, or because of your Wawasan primary school experience, you were like, okay, like I do have this exposure of being around different people in Malaysia? Because I think in Malaysia, like, depending on where you live and where you're from, you could also be boxed into just kind of being around people who are just like you. But yeah, just wanted to see what you had to say.
Yeah, I think when I was in Chinese in private school, because it's mainly Chinese, so it was very easy to just stick with the people. But then I think I think Quentin was kind of alright because you also get Malay teachers and you also
Ah,
have Indian
okay.
teachers. So it kind of depends on what teachers you get. But all in all, there's not really a particular discrimination as far as I experienced. But yes, I think it largely attributed by my primary school experience where I'm so used to there are just different people around.
Right, right. So once you came to the UK, then was getting into classes and diving deep into your biomedical sciences studies, what were some things that stood out to you about this discipline? Who were your professors that you were collaborating with? And I know now that you are a PhD student at the very prestigious Oxford. So how did you decide that you wanted to go down that route and continue deepening your knowledge in this science?
So I've very carefully selected my degree where in this course that I've selected there was a huge element of laboratory experience. And so I have a 5 to 6 month project in my very last year where you don't have any classes. You're just
Oh,
in a
wow.
project in a lab. That's your final year project. You're in it and you're experiencing what the real science is. Nobody knows where this is going to. Nobody knows whether you're going to get positive or negative results. And I was very lucky to be able to be involved in a PhD's project. So I'm basically shadowing under her on like difficult techniques. Um, and I think that was when I decided that maybe research could be a thing for me. Um, but to confirm that, I did another master's just to make sure
Okay.
that this is the thing that I want to get into. Um, Also, the other issue was if you don't have a master's, it's relatively more difficult to apply for a fully funded PhD program.
I
Um,
see.
I, I I think there was a value in this because one, I was the people who graduate in COVID. You don't get the full experience. And so you might think that research in lab is a bit of like a fabulous, magical kind of stuff. And I just want to make sure that I know what I'm going into. Um, and so I did a master's of research, which means I don't have much lessons or teaching element. I have two research projects where most of the time is again spent doing the project itself, and then also exploring like different areas that you really want to do. So I kind of crafted that pathway towards a PhD direction.
Very, very nice. Very nice. I mean, you've really thought about this for such a young age to have that kind of vision. That's very admirable. One thing that I would like to ask though is, did you initially get a scholarship to come to the UK? Because it's very expensive.
So for my degree, I didn't manage to secure a scholarship. I was fortunate enough that my family could pay for this. Um, but for my PhD, it's fully funded, so it covers all my tuition, my stipend, and all the research fees. Um, I think that it is getting more and more expensive in terms of the tuition, to the extent that I think it's really fortunate that I had my degree earlier. So if I'm correct, the course that I'm doing back in 2019 has increased by probably 50% to now.
Wow, that's a lot.
So there has been a huge increase in terms of tuition fee in general in the whole UK. On top of this, there were more and more restrictions. If you have a chance to look into the UK higher education system, many universities are struggling to make ends meet. And some of
Mm-hmm.
them actually had to increase the tuition to make sure that they have enough funds to ensure that the school operates well, or they have to take some extreme measures like cutting off people, laid off, etc. Um, I don't know if it's still worth as much, but then I would say it is because of those experience that enables me to land to my scholarship and to study in Oxford right now, because I've been following the whole UK tertiary education system. It does give me a better head start when applying back to British universities.
100%. Yeah, I'm like a decade older than you, and my parents are like 3 decades older than me. And I think, for them, like, it was very important that I went to university, got a college degree. But if I'm thinking someday if I have kids and I'm 3 decades older than them, I don't even know if it's even necessary, because a lot of learning can be done online, and of course, there is value in person learning. So, like, within just your community, like like last time, like, being a teacher was like, oh, you had to have so much knowledge and to teach, but now you can learn from so many people on the internet, and things like that. And I think if these universities keep increasing the tuition, like, as years go by, I think future generations are actually not going to go. So it'll be interesting to see, like, what happens. That's just my prediction. I know, like, very big universities will, because of the prestige, like Harvard
Mhm.
and MIT and stuff, like, they will stick around. But I'm wondering what's going to happen to other universities, um, where people are not applying to them because it's too expensive. It's like, are they going to be around? I'm not sure. So I think we'll see a change. 100 years ago, not everybody went to university. Now people are going to university, and 100 years later, maybe people won't go to university again. So it's a
It's
cycle.
actually happening now in the UK, where there are fewer and fewer locals are actually
Mm,
enrolled in the universities, even though they could have student loans because of how their student loan system runs, where the interest just keep on getting compounding.
right.
Then it has reached to a stage where they think maybe it is not as worth it anymore.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest takeaway that I really get was to relearn how to learn.
Okay.
This is probably a bit difficult for people who are coming from Asian education background, where we're so used to there's a strict syllabus. You go
Yes.
into the class, you learn what is on the syllabus, you sit for the exam, tada, and then you're
Correct.
just gonna end up with flying colors. You got your nice result sheets, and then you get a. You think this is going to ensure you a good job? No, that's not the case anymore.
Correct. Like, you're so right. Very true. And also, I do think, in your case, like you said, you did have that opportunity to meet people from different backgrounds. I do think that is probably the most valuable thing about being in a university setting, where you get to meet people from different walks of life, and then you actually kind of grow into yourself and learn how to be an adult and socialize and go to community events. And you learn how to take care of your own space and your dorm and your own meals, right? Like you learn how to take care of yourself, I think, when you go away for university. And then meeting people and things like that. So I think like that is still valuable, like the whole community and social aspect of the university. And like you said, the unlearning how to learn, especially for us, coming from like the very memorization kind of studying. And though I will say that our math standard is very much higher than a lot of other countries. Like
That's
I
true.
think our mathematics is very high standard and good. So how do you feel now that you're in your PhD program and you're on your way to becoming a researcher? Like how does it all feel for you?
I think on a PhD program, it's even more different because there isn't a structure anymore. It's even worse than when you're in your degree or your master's, where you know you've got this timeline to meet. And then after this, your assignment's done, that's it, that's over. On a PhD program, you don't really have a structure. You're trying to create knowledge. You're working on something because no one has worked on it. And it must be a difficult question because if it's not, then people would have already solved it.
Good point. Yeah.
So right now I'm working on cancer research.
Wow.
It's one of the major killers of all diseases across the world. But cancer is a disease that it takes time to develop. Some of the cancers, for example, like colorectal cancers, there is actually quite a high um, survival rate compared to other things like a brain cancer because it's a
Right.
more difficult cancer to treat because brain is a very complex organ. Cancer is a disease that it takes time to develop. You might accumulate one mutation, you might accumulate a couple more mutations, but your body itself has a mechanism to correct this mutation to prevent it from further developing. So cancer is a disease where you are more likely to find in people who are older because you have more time to accumulate mutations.
So you're saying that, I probably have one or two mutations, but it's not yet cancer because the mutations need to continue to evolve. But you're saying that if I don't get cancer, it's because in the time that it was supposed to evolve, my body took care of the mutations and got rid of it.
Yeah. Whereas we might have other more serious diseases like infectious disease where it spreads really quickly, or you have congenital diseases where it was related to development.
Yeah,
And
like you're
these
born with it.
diseases,
Right.
yeah, and these diseases are still a problem to be solved.
Got it. So you're saying that as technology gets better, and if people like in their 20s and 30s are able to quickly determine what the mutations are, and if we have a mechanism to turn around the mutations, then like there'll be a future where nobody gets cancer. Is that what it could be?
There could be. There is actually an area where people are trying to invent cancer vaccines.
Okay.
So there was a this is like ongoing work where we have where people are trying to work out and see if there's a possibility that we can treat cancer by using your immune system. So
Oh,
something that you already have and just enhance it. But of course, this is like a very complex question. What cancer antigen you want to target, and how do you know who are more likely to have cancer, etc. It's still a difficult question to answer.
yeah. And so your research is specifically focused on, is it identifying cancer early on or like actually treating somebody that already has cancer?
So my research currently is trying to understand the immune system in cancer where there was a area called antibody that your
Mhm.
body produces to fight against things that's not naturally there in your body. I'm still not sure whether this is going towards the diagnostic part or the mechanistic part,
I
and that's
see.
just a problem that I want to solve.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I would say with the advancement in medicine and biology, as well as other technologies, um, it is still a very exciting area of research where there are still a lot of questions that we don't know the answer. That's why there are more and more people working on biomedical science. Um, and now a lot of sciences are actually incorporating with AI research.
Right.
Yeah,
That's great. So you're gonna also be dabbling in AI, obviously.
I don't know. It depends on how my research is going on.
Okay, okay. And how many years has it been since you started your PhD?
So I'm in my second year, but I think there are still a long journey to go.
Of course. And I don't know if you've thought about it, but do you feel like you would want to lean towards, being a researcher and kind of focusing on that like after, or would you also want to go down the academic route and be a professor and all that?
I think I'm still open to the path because I think what I've learned now may not be true. What I've thought about right now may not be true as we have more and more um, knowledge
Right.
from other people, as well as when we have exchanged thoughts. Um, I think I'm still quite open to which route I want to go down to. I am still in the very early stages of learning things around, and I think it's too early for me to say which route I want to go down to.
Fair.
I think I'm at the age where I still want to experience as much as possible, and
Yeah.
I do enjoy the process of breaking what I've learned and to relearn things again.
Yeah, very nice. How do you like to spend your free time? I know when you're a PhD student, they say that there's no such thing as free time. Like I'm just in this, like that's my life. But how do do you have any hobbies or any other interests?
So I think when you say PhD doesn't have life, it's because we had way too much freedom to decide how our day want to be. In terms of my experience here, you don't really have a fixed time where you're going to do your lab work or when you're going to leave your lab. So freedom becomes something that you enjoy, but you have
Hmm.
to be responsible for your
Possible.
progress as well. So I think for me, I tend to focus as much as possible, and then I slot out time for traveling.
Very nice. Where have you been most recently?
Most recently, I've been to Italy. I'm actually planning on a trip to going to Norway.
Nice.
And I think Italy, it's a really nice place. There's a lot of culture over there, and I'm just lucky enough that I've known people who are from Italy that they can tell me what are the nice places around. Um, and at Italy, I can finally enjoy the sun.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because in the UK it's gloomy, isn't it?
Yes. And I think this part of traveling has also stemmed from my undergraduate experience where I was meeting different people and I'm just trying to understand how people are brought up very differently, why they hold different cultures or different values. And all these things are part of the nutrients that built who I am right now, or I would say to break who I am right now to rebuild myself again.
That's really awesome to hear that you're able to honestly spend your 20s to discover these things and to learn and grow. It's a very privileged position to be in, and I'm really glad that you're able to make the best of it. How would you say things are with Malaysia and leaving that behind? Not that it's gone, it's still there, but leaving that behind and carving out a new life on your own and your family and friends back home.
I miss them a lot.
Yeah,
And but I think because I've known that I have to build my life myself and it's on my own choice whether I want to stay here or I want to go back to Malaysia. Um, Based on what I understand, there are not as much focus on biopharma related stuff in Malaysia. as compared to other stuff like semiconductor or plantation. And that's one of the reasons that I chose to study this subject abroad. Um, and also the other reasons was because a lot of modern medicine are built in places like Europe, States, um, more developed countries, rather than places like our country. I do not think this was a bad choice. I think it just lies in which area you're interested in. But Malaysia will always be like a special place to me, and it's where I come from. That's where my roots are.
I want to ask, do you have any advice to, students in Malaysia that are maybe doing their A levels right now and thinking about going abroad or completing their undergrad, and any advice that you might have for the Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas?
Every experience, it's a lesson. There's no regrets in. You just have to be honest to yourself and pick what you really like. And because of how quickly everything has been changing, there will always be a chance for you to reroute. You just have to believe that everything you have learned along the way will eventually build what you want to reach.
Yeah, I very much agree with it. Your advice is spot on. And I think people should just follow what they are interested in and learn as much as they can at that stage of their life. Now I have to ask the golden question, which is, do you ever see yourself moving back to Malaysia someday?
Um, I think my answer is going to lean towards yes. I think Malaysia it's a really beautiful place. Um, and I personally think it would be great to have a retirement in Malaysia.
Yeah.
We are free of natural disasters. You got all the kinds of food that you've been enjoying since you were young. You are familiar with the place. And I think for me, the main reason that I haven't go back after so long was because I am still unsure about what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I just want to take as much as possible of the experience to explore outside of Malaysia, outside of my comfort zone. Um, but yeah, I think I might go back sooner or later.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I mean, Malaysia has the brain drain phenomenon, and a lot of us leave to go abroad because of the opportunities. And like you said, like the field of study that you're in, like to collaborate and work with the top minds, you almost have to go to the UK or the US. And I hope that as years go by, like we can actually bring back all that talent back to Malaysia and also just grow and develop within Malaysia. I think it'll happen. Maybe not in the next 10 years, but in the next like 20, 30 years, that there's a huge chance. Yeah, Kai Yee, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It was really nice of you to reach out and to share your story. I wish you all the best with your PhD journey and studies and discovering yourself. Yeah, so thank you very much.
Thank you.